Welcome to this quick look at Totara 19. So going to go through some of the key features that are new and do a quick demo of Totara 19, comparing that to Totara 18 at the end. I should note that this is pre-release software, so some things may change. However, the features that we're going to show are the things that are expected to be there as part of the release. So the first thing is the base theme has changed. So they've released the Inspire base theme compared to the Ventura theme used previously. There are a few changes in this. Some of the things that could be customized are slightly different. So things like with buttons, they simplified some of the options there. But the main thing that you'll notice is the left nav has been introduced. So previously, the user bar and the main menu bar were combined. Now they're separate elements. And this, I think, lends itself really nicely as most people are using monitors that are wider than they are taller. It also pairs very nicely with the pathway format, which I will show you in a few minutes, but the pathway format that was introduced in Totara 18. And of course, the menu's fully responsive and sort of mobile compatible. So if you're on a mobile device, it just sort of tucks down behind a burger menu, which can then be tapped in order to expand that. And I think it gives it a much more modern feel, which is really nice. Second sort of major change is that they've combined essentially the functionality from Totara Engage into Totara Learn. So previously, when you bought Totara, you could have Totara Learn, Totara Engage, and Totara Perform. Totara, based on feedback, have kind of found that the use cases for Learn and Engage go really nicely together. So they've brought those two as part of the standard license. Totara Perform is still available as an extra if you'd like that sort of functionality. But this is a way of giving a lot more value because you've got the sort of the more formal side of learning through Totara Learn, and then sort of peer-to-peer sharing resources that Totara Engage gives you, that sort of LXP experience. So I think that's a really good change that comes as part of this. The major change in terms of the workflows for course enrollments. So specifically in terms of approvals for that. So learners can request to be enrolled on a course, so maybe they found a course via Find Learning or the recommendations engine or elsewhere within the system, and they can choose to enroll to that. That sends a request to the manager, who can then approve or deny that, and obviously the learner gets notified of that. And there's a lot of customization behind this. There's a lot of different use cases that this can cover, kind of building on top of the sort of self-enrollment method. So that's a really nice change to see as well. Cloning certifications. So in Totara 18, they introduced functionality to clone programs. So this essentially takes the same thing from there and applies that to certifications, which is a really nice change to see. This is one just about improving sort of the admin overhead for managing certifications. And one way that you could use this is to have essentially a template certification that you create and then clone that for all the certifications throughout the system. And that's something that could definitely save a lot of time and also lead to a more standardized experience for the learners. So very happy to see that as well. A few other changes. So first around accessibility, we made further improvements to accessibility. And I think in time they'll update the accessibility statement that's available if you need that. I think one of the drivers behind this was the sort of move towards WCAG 2.2, which came out last autumn. They're making those improvements to the system to help there. AI, this is something which is kind of under the experimental side of things. This is kind of, I think, more of a proof of concept for what Totara might do in terms of AI moving forward. So this feature is very handy. Essentially, you set up the AI integration using an API key from OpenAI, and then it will generate tags when you're doing course administration. But I feel more excited about where this might go in terms of the AI subsystem. And this functionality is available to developers via the sort of plugin APIs, etc. And then on the Totara Perform side of things, so they've been making some improvements to goals. So there's some UI changes that they've made some changes to reporting. So there's a new report source for goals, added the ability to add comments to goals, and linking goal tasks to courses. So the goal can have tasks defined, and the task may be linked to the course in question. And some key information. So the expected release date for this is January. Obviously, as with all software, we'll see when it's released, but that's what we're expecting. Alongside the newer version of Totara itself, they've updated the various versions of the other systems or the supporting infrastructure that is involved. So things like adding support for new versions of PHP, adding support for new versions of things like Postgres for the database, etc., which gives a better sort of overall stack, if you like, in terms of the security and the prospects of the security from that. And as a part of the life cycle, so Totara commits to provide security releases for at least 4 years after a major version's out, and they tend to do it a little bit longer as well. So if you were to move to this at the start of next year, then you'd be looking for mainstream support till at least January 2029, which is really nice. So let's do a quick demo, just a couple of things here to look at. This is a Totara 19 preview that we've got running. We've applied some CSS, but this is using the built-in Ventura theme, so we've customized things like the colors, some of the details, etc. But this is essentially out of the box with some minor customization that we'd be able to do for any of our clients. And what we can see, so the top bar, which was compared to Totara 18, here we had the user and the menu together. On here, got the menu down the side. And to give you an example of how that kind of works, I think, nicer within courses. So we look at this course here, which is using the pathway format that was released in Totara 18. I think the way that this kind of flows from the main navigation through to the course content, I think that's really nice. It's still pretty good on Totara 18, where you have the sort of main navigation, course navigation and content. But I think the Totara 19, especially having used it a little bit, feels a lot nicer. I also think, if you collapse this here, then that gives a really nice, simple kind of course experience. And if we just pop through here, I feel like this is it's a very obvious sort of way for a learner to navigate through and to experience the content that's in there. And I think it's really puts the learner at the sort of front and center of that experience. That's really nice. And then in terms of other things that I can show you, so I mentioned around certifications. So we find a certification within Totara 19. We'll click on the cog here. And if we just do the same on the Totara 18 for comparison. So we see on the Totara 18 here, kind of got a bit of blank space, whereas on Totara 19, clone certification. Click to that. We can choose what we want to copy, and then that would give me a fresh certification to start playing with and configure in the way that I need from the system. So that's just a quick look. If anyone has any more questions, then please do feel free to reach out and get in touch.